It's another go-round of SDHAM. John Nelson here with you, and it's going to be the standard amount of stuff that we talk about here on a Reaction Monday. Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, is going to be joining us here in just a sec, and we will go over what's on Abe's mind as we get ready for everything here on a Monday. We'll go over your thoughts when it comes to Atlanta United and the 1-1 draw with FC Dallas, and we will have in the show, we'll have your highlights and have a conversation, a little bit of a conversation that Jason had with Tristan Muyumba after the match from the Full-Time Report at 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Then we will also catch you up on everything else that's gone on this morning. Bart Keeler is going to join us at 10 o'clock. It was USWNT taking on Brazil at SoFi, so we'll get into that. And we'll get into cards and calls as well. And there's one call I'm sure that a lot of folks are probably going to want to talk about from the Atlanta United and FC Dallas match, where a lot of folks think that Atlanta United didn't get 3 points or 2 more points anyway, because of a certain call that was made in the matchup later than late. And so we'll get into that, get into anything else that's on Bart's mind when it comes to the WNT and cards and calls and reffing down here. And also in hour number 2. Hour number 2 is let's just put it this way. It's going to be interesting on a level I don't think that we've had here on the morning show. And the reason that I say that is this. Thanks to all of you yesterday that went up to the Fraction to fight the rain and fight all the nonsense and just all of the with Atlanta United 2 and Inter Miami CF 2. That was supposed to happen at noon, because at 7:30, they were thinking that what has been happening pretty much ever since noon yesterday was going to have a window where they could get the match in, and it wasn't going to happen at night, so they moved it to noon. And we were there at the Fraction, and it was me, Maddie, and Jason, and the diehards that were there, and obviously, folks like Chloe Spradlin Communications for Atlanta United 2. Jarrett was there as well for a while, and then you got to 24:09 on the clock, and you heard thunder and lightning, and when the AR comes out onto the field, you're like, okay, so we're stopping. 4 hours and 19 minutes later, we finally did stop. And so now the match with the 2s and Inter Miami CF 2, so Messi and Friends 2, that kicks back in at 11 o'clock this morning on the network. So Maddie and Jason are making their way down to Mercedes-Benz. They're going to have the rest of the match available for you at soccerdownhere.mixler.com and also on the Mixler app. So when this is over, go over to our Mixler channel and listen to the remainder of the match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium with Jason and Maddie and the cast of thousands that might be coming through the door there. So got to 24:09, clock stopped. So did the world, at least inside Fifth Third Stadium on the campus of Kennesaw State. So the match will pick up at 11 o'clock on the network over at our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, or on the Mixler app, and follow Soccer Down Here and SDH2. But today on Soccer Down Here, on the number 1 channel, it's going to be Atlanta United 2 and the rest of the match with Messi and Friends 2 starting at 11 o'clock. So we might end the show a little early just because of having to be ready for that and the halftime elements and keeping an eye out for all that stuff. So that's the day right now. Tonight, weather permitting, I will be at Coahulla Creek for Fort Payne and Coahulla Creek. On the girls' side, it's just the one match. It's supposed to be at 6 o'clock. But once again, since we're in a flood watch, we're keeping an eye on the skies. The Big 55 is on the Weather Channel, and we're keeping an eye on all of that stuff. So that's where we are today. Our number 1 is Atlanta United, and it is Abe Gordon coming up in just a little bit when I can figure out how to reconfigure all of the video and things that we've uploaded. We got highlights. We got post with Jason and Tristan Muyumba. Hour number 2, plus your thoughts. Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD, talking about the women's national team, the return of Triple Espresso, Trinity Rodman, a couple of first-timers getting caps, Avery Patterson a part of that as well, Lindsay Heaps from the spot, 2-0 win over Brazil. We'll get into that in match 1 of 2 against Brazil. So we'll have that ready for you. And then once again, when Maddie and Jason parachute in, they're parachuting in. So we'll talk to them about the twos, and then we'll have them get ready for the broadcast. I think they're coming on at like 10:50. So you get a little bit of pregame when things kick back in at 11 o'clock for the match that starts back up at 24:09. So soccerdownhere.mixler.com, Mixler app. Follow Soccer Down Here and follow SDH2. Soccerdownhere.net, go to the Listen tab, and then I think there's like a big red siren when we have things that are going live on either one or both network channels. So you can do that one of 3 ways. You can stay dry. You can listen to the match. It's behind closed doors, and so it's an opportunity for us to be able to broadcast the rest of the match for you as well on the audio side of things. That's the rundown for the morning. Like I said, the afternoon is the part that we're going to be paying attention to when it comes to all of this stuff and seeing if we can get the Kahala Creek Fort Payne match in once again, 6 o'clock on the network, and I'll be up at Kahala Creek, weather permitting. Once again, we'll keep you posted on that. So, and I know that Abby is in the Twitch pitch, and she was discussing the team and the time change and the amount of time that was in between the announcement of the time change and the match itself. And I know that has become an inconvenience for folks. Matt, and for Abby, says it's the second match out of 3. So, and I know that that's something that I imagine that they will look at going forward. But yeah, this one was, I don't remember when it was switched, but obviously it was weather related. And I think it was the day before, if I remember correctly. So 7:30 start, and then it was moved to noon. And I think it was the day before. I think it was. I'm trying to remember when it was switched, but and so once again, like I said, we'll keep an eye on that stuff as we go. But once again, 10:50 pregame show on the Mixler channel with Maddie and Jason. They're going to parachute in the hour number 2, and we'll discuss everything that's going on with there. 7:30 p.m. Thank you, Abby. So obviously, it's just they're trying to navigate as best they can, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we don't have to have any other future navigating when it comes to weather. All right. So through the magic of tape, I am hopefully going to be properly giving us the Abe Gordon conversation without a train wreck and punching a bunch of buttons. So here's the conversation that we had on tape before we got on air this morning with Abe about the weekend, and we'll see what's going on with with Abe. Unless, of course, come on now, where is it? It's no, I didn't add to the stream. Where is it? Come on now, video storage. No, that is not the way this works. All right, well, hang on. So maybe I'll have to do it this way. Maybe I'll have to do it from over here. So, all right, nothing like having 2 laptops going so you could sit there and make your marker as we go. So let's see what happens here. Let me see if I can push buttons and actually make something work. So we'll see what happens in pushing buttons and trying to make sure that officially in a no dilly, no dally zone this morning. It's Abe, because Abe has to deal with paying gigs and traffic and rain and everything. So we are wasting no time in bringing Abe in off the top. So you're properly hydrated. You're ready to go and talk about what happened this past weekend now that you've had a day or so to kind of think about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, ideally you would have walked away with 3 points. And again, it's becoming this, and I still think it's early season, right? We're not to the middle portion yet. It has become an early season theme of performance matching with results. I thought you were the better side on Saturday night. I think most of us probably thought that Atlanta United was the better side, but certainly if you don't put away opportunity after opportunity and you leave it as a 1-goal advantage, it can come back to bite you, and it did. And the players and the coaches address that head on and say, hey, I mean, the moral of the story for pretty much all of them is they got to find a way to make teams pay when they're in dangerous positions. And they got there multiple times and unfortunately only took home one goal, but they did take home 1 point, and that's better than we've seen in some of the other matches where we also thought Atlanta United outperformed their opponent and couldn't even get the one. So you're running 3 straight home games continues, and you look to make it. I mean, look, you wanted 9 points out of 3 games. If you can find a way to win on Saturday, I think 7 points out of 3 games is still something, and you could start to build from there. And again, it'd be nice at some point if we can ever get the full first choice lineup for Ronny Deila. Again, I think it's happened one time this season, and even that was based on choices he wanted to make in the midfield. But some good performances from some, and unfortunately, you do have to give some points away, though.
Well, and one of those folks that you and I got the chance to listen to, and we'll play a little bit of his interview coming up in a sec with Jason, is from Tristan Muyumba. And because you didn't have Alexei Miranchuk from the jump and have him for a full however many minutes he was available, and it ended up being 30 at the end of the day because of the adductor injury, Tristan had to do things a little differently. And you got to see Tristan as a conductor, and it was a full day for him across the board. I think 5 tackles, by the end of the day defensively, but he was the one, he was the straw back on Saturday in a bit of a different role, and he seemed to relish that, and he's been relishing his time under Ronny Deila so far.
He's just been simply outstanding this year, and I just didn't see it coming. There were hopes, obviously, when he first moved over with the club that this is what he could be, a mainstay in the midfield, a presence defensively who can also help build into the attack. And it really didn't happen that way. And last season was incredibly difficult for him, incredibly frustrating. I think mentally, I think physically. And he's just come back refreshed this season. And I know he didn't start the first 2 matches, but since being given the opportunity, he's completely taken hold of it to the point where even though he was injured and had to miss a match, as soon as they were given the green light, he's like, you got to go back in the lineup, man. Like, you're playing too well. And Saturday was another showcase of that. I just thought he seemed no one on the soccer field is literally everywhere, but the guy's defensive midfield can kind of appear that way a little bit. It felt like when there was a Dallas break coming, he was the guy that either forced a pass to slow it up or got in the way, or sometimes even won the tackle. It felt like every time Dallas tried to clear from their own box, it only got as far as Muyumba, and he was there to recycle and get it back into play. It just felt like he was doing so many things and at such a high level. And the difference between what he's doing now and what he's doing and some of the frustrations from last season, you just haven't had that costly mistake game after game. It may have only been 1 or 2 mistakes per game, but they were so costly a season ago. And you're just not having that right now. He is playing at such a high level that you got guys on the bench like Jay Fortune, like Mateus Click, like the youngster Will Riley, just have no shot of seeing the field right now because of what Muyumba is doing. And I think when you're able to stack Muyumba and then get Alexei Miranchuk back in ahead of him, it just sets you up so well to be able to control the middle of the field, which is something Atlanta United hasn't necessarily done since the departure of course, Darlington Nagbe.
77 touches on the day, 58 of 64 passing at 91%. He had the 1 key pass, 2 for 3 on his long balls. He had the 1 shot off target, 1 for 1 on the dribble when he engaged in play. 7 of 9 on his ground duels, as we say. And you continue to add those numbers offensively to what we saw defensively. You had the 2 picks and 5 total tackles to go with the fact that he was fouled once when he was in possession. So he's hitting you on both sides, but the 5 total tackles and the 2 picks for me, for someone who you want to have engaged defensively, as you mentioned, and then make sure that everything's going back the other way just as quickly, hitting all of these categories on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it really was just a total performance. It may have been one of the best midfield performances in a draw that we have seen. I'm not the encyclopedia of Atlanta United individual efforts that I can go back game by game and talk about it, but it just really felt like he was controlling things, and that's another reason why it was so frustrating to allow one past Goose. Steon Gregerson makes an incredible slide to prevent a shot on target, and the rebound just falls. But you just had so many good performances to only get 1 point out of it. That's what's continually frustrating. But it's getting to the point now with Moyamba where you're just kind of Ron Popeeling it. You're setting it and forgetting it, right? And it's just you don't think about it, right? Like it was such a concern a season ago, like, oh boy, we're pressed into it and now we have to use Moyamba. It's a total other conversation. It's like, I'm pumped that Moyamba was back from injury and we're able to get him into the lineup. And that's just not something I thought I was going to be saying at the start of the season. I was so excited about Mateus Click and just the performance. And also based on what you have on top, what your needs defensively, your needs offensively, and there will be times for him. There will be times for Fortune and Click as well. But he's just such a sturdy presence. He's developed a really nice partnership with Sleesh as well, which is another aspect that is probably understated a little bit. Their communication and their understanding of the spacing has seemed very well as also.
Now, you mentioned that. I want to go to the back line. I know that we talked about Matt Edwards and Dominic Chong-Kui and the younger players jumping in. Because of the injury to Derek Williams and Pedro Amador, that meant that, once again, Matt was going to get the start at the left back, and then Luis Abram got the nod at left center back. And Luis is literally the only way that I think I can accurately describe Luis is that Luis is the guy that's going to grab his lunch pail, he's going to grab his hard hat, and he's going to go to work. He's not going to sit there and he's not going to talk it up. I know I got a job to do. I'm going to go out there and do my job. I'm going to enjoy doing my job. And at the end of the day, the results will speak for themselves. And it didn't hit me until looking at Luis's numbers once again, how much of a silent partner he was in all of this. 4 clearances, 1 block, 2 tackles, 3 of 7 on his duels on the day. And he was 64 touches, 51 of 56 passing for a center back. And he had 3 long balls to add to that. So Luis Abram came in and gave you what you were hoping for defensively in shutting down any kind of attack up the right-hand side that would involve, for the most part, Lucho Acosta, who's always been a troublemaker, and Peter Musa, except for that one instance.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is no surprise for Atlanta United fans, and maybe people of other MLS teams are finally coming to understand. But Luis Abram's a guy that's a national teamer. This is a guy that probably starts on like 21 other MLS teams. He's just caught in a numbers game here. And it's outstanding that Atlanta United does have trusty, reliable center back depth. Not where you're bringing a guy in and you hope he gets the job done, but a guy that you put in there and you're confident will do the job, can pair with Steon and do what's necessary. I don't know if Atlanta United fans really understand how lucky they are to have Luis Abram, who in an instant, in a moment, in a start, can do the same job that the guys ahead of him are doing. And I know we obviously missed him in the international break where he was gone, and you dealt with some other guys out. But I think it's an incredible benefit to have that guy ready to roll on any given day, because I just think he is a starter quality player that you have sitting on your bench, and just not a lot of teams have that. Certainly not at the center back position. A lot of teams really have to scramble when one of their backs are out, and Atlanta United not in that situation. I think Luis Abram's a big reason why.
Well, and you mentioned the depth and having the depth because of international windows and because of schedule compression and because of multiple competitions. You need to have this depth. And when you're in regular season and you have depth from a national team guy, and then when you're in international windows, because you have Matt Edwards and Dominic Chong, it's all of the pieces fitting together in this roster build that you were looking for from Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson.
Yeah, and the Matt Edwards story is pretty wild. I mean, obviously a beneficiary of Brooks Lennon's injury early in the season, taking a little bit longer to get him back than I would have thought. I thought Brooks was going to be ready for day one when the injury occurred. I mean, when the initial timeline was set, I was like, all right, make sure to lock his shoulder back into place, and he'll be ready to go. He's got to wait a couple weeks. Matt Edwards comes in and kind of learns the ropes a little bit, kind of gets accustomed to being a starter in the MLS. And now with Pedro's most recent injury is pressed into duty. And he performed well again. And it's just another thing there. You showcase and I've talked with you about this, John, and we talked both on this podcast or off air as well. Just the ability of young guys, and we saw it with Will O'Reilly. We've seen it with Noah Cobb, but from the academies or the twos to just be able to jump right into it and not really be too big of a concern. I know we had a couple of issues with Dom Chankwi a week ago, some good, some bad. And by the way, congrats to him on the new homegrown contract. Get your money, son.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just so impressive to see Matt Edwards in a variety of roles too. You've looked at him as a center back. You looked at him as a right wing. Now you look at him as a left wing. I think we can see him step up into the midfield if need be. Although we just talked about the midfield depth on its own.
Right.
I mean, that guy is just ready for it. And he performed, I think, quite admirably as well on Saturday.
Any other elements of this stick out? I know that in looking at the numbers, because Miggy hit a milestone, that was why I had voted him for player of the match. And second match in a row that Miggy has gotten on the scoreboard, and having to play a little bit differently in his approach and positionally because of the injury to Alexei Miranchuk, where things had to be juggled around, and it was almost like a 4-2-2-2 at times. 4-2-2-2, yes, 4-2-2-2 at times in the attack. So, I mean, you're looking at Miggy scoring for the second one in a row, and you're hoping that even if it was from the penalty spot, you're hoping that continues to unlock him. And Latte Lot, just seriously, I look at someone like Latte Lot, and I'm just stunned at times at how quick he is and how fast he is and how much he can just destroy backlines.
Yeah, well, look, all's well up top, I think, and maybe we didn't get quite the performance that we had seen in recent weeks of Sabo when he was been on the right, but I thought he also still looked dangerous. There's definitely still some miscommunications up top, some balls that were thrown through the box and made all their way through because there was a wrong read or a different run than expected, stuff like that. So that's still got to be worked out. I'll be honest, John, because I know we're running short on time here. We certainly can't leave this discussion without bringing forth, and I can't believe it took us this long to get there. It also feels like the officiating took away some points from Atlanta United. And you've watched it. I've watched it. I just don't see an angle where I thought Jamal Tiare fouls his man the late stages of this match. He's in on goal, and it's got to be like 8 out of 9 or 8.5 out of 10 times he's putting that away. I just don't see a foul there, and that's frustrating. Certainly, and I was sitting up there with Maddie, and you came by as well, and it's just like, does this guy have his cards? Like, did he leave them in the hotel, and he's just too ashamed to tell people? Because, like, he wasn't giving out cards, and he eventually gave one to Latte Loth, and it had to be given to fair report there. I mean, that was not a soccer foul. It was a frustration foul, and it needed to be handled. But it just let the game get out of hand. He let himself get duped multiple times. I just didn't understand it. It was one of the worst officiated games front to back. We'll talk about other games with bad officiating in key moments, and I understand that. But this had that and just poor officiating through stretches of the match. And look, I'm sure Dallas fans can find an angle where they were on the wrong side of this thing, but it felt like there was a goal late stage to be had. It felt like it was taken away unfairly because of officiating. Almost like in the NFL where I would like to have seen that play on, and then if you want to review it later and go back to it, I don't know if that's the literature and bylaws and how you can look back at things, but you know, sometimes if you're not sure about offsides, you let it play out, right? And then you'll come back and take a look. I just wish they had done that, because from all of the video evidence we saw, I just didn't see enough for them to call a foul on Jamal if they had taken a look after he put it in the back of the net. Again, you don't leave a game up to an officiating decision, right? No. Atlanta United had chances to put this game away, make it a 2-goal, 3-goal lead. They didn't, and that came back to bite them. That's on them. but it didn't help that one of the lasting images was Jamal Tiare one-on-one with the goalie, and it gets stopped.
Yep. All right. So go fight traffic, go be live remoting and all that kind of stuff, and make sure that Chipper goes out one more time. As always, my friend, great to see you.
Will do. It was nice to have the Roop open on a Saturday, and a reminder that this next coming game, it's a matinee against New England. So it should be exciting as they wrap up this 3-game homestand. And look, like I said towards the start, 7 points. If you can get 7 out of a possible 9 out of these 3 home games, that's not too shabby.
No doubt about it. Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. He's out the door. Might help if I unmute. That's Abe before we caught up with him going to other environs and things. And to Abe's point, and let me pull back the curtain a little bit. So we were doing the full-time report, and it was one of those things where it was on my list to talk about. And I didn't know if we were going to be in a position to where we were going to be able to talk about it. And so the Fierro discussion was on my list. It was. It definitely was on my list. And so we ran out of time. Yeah, Abby, I'm an idiot. It's a Monday. So the whole center ref discussion was one of those things where literally I had it on my sheet and it was driving me crazy in the idea of hopefully talking about it, but we ran out of time. And so the fact, and to Abe's credit and to Abe's point, the fact that we were talking about a lot of other things before we even got into the Fierro discussion, I think it bodes well to all the other factors that we're staring at here when it comes to what we're seeing with Atlanta United here to this point of the season. The fact that Atlanta United really should feel aggrieved over not getting 2 more points on a play late when Abe and I were talking about this independently, you could tell, I mean, the play in and of itself was nothing. And in those instances, and like I said, when we bring Bart in, I want to walk through it with Bart as well, where I would let that play out. But then once the whistle happens, foul happens, and it goes back the other way, and 43,000 folks are incredulous over a call. Well, I don't know how many Dallas fans. 42,000. So 42,000 people incredulous over a call with a roof open. Then you have that to think about this weekend. And like I said, I think that 2 points were left on the table, but the fact that we are having this discussion and not like we were in seasons past and having it at the forefront and talking about game state and all this kind of stuff, the fact that we're talking about the team play first and foremost, and then as an aside or an epilogue discussing how suspect things were, especially on a call like that. And the point I was trying to make about Abe was looking at the backwash of the play in and of itself. And the fact that you had, I think it was Shaq Moore. I think it was Shaq Moore and Urquidy. One of them goes down. I think it was Shaq Moore that went down. And the other center back that was there basically is, after the whistle and the foul is called, it's not like the other center back is over the player going, yeah, fam, you all right? No, literally it was applauding for the foul getting called and helping the player up and everything's fine. It's not like, it was a body check and you're down and you're checking on your teammate and you're going, yo, fam, you okay? No, it was fouls called, it's going back the other way. People are aggrieved and mad, and then you end up with, okay, applause, you break your teammate up, teammates all happy and everything's fine. So, once again, good gamesmanship. Look, you got the call. But when Bart is in hour number 2, I do want to discuss with Bart the art of calls and no calls and things like that, because and letting things play out in advantage and all these kinds of things. So what I wanted to, what I wanted to just kind of leave on the table here is the idea of, okay, fine. Look, if you're going to be consistent in your calling, be consistent with your calls. If that means that you're not gonna give any cards, you're gonna let them, you're gonna let them go roller derby, and it is what it is at the end of the day, then cool. If that's going to be the way that it's going to be. But if you're all over the place, if you're going to call some things a certain way, then call them and go 180 and have your speeds be different when you're navigating. That to me is a larger issue. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into with Bart in hour number 2, and we talk about cards and calls and reffing down here and that kind of a thing. It's just the idea of consistency, and if you maintain consistency, I'm cool. Look, like I said, you're either going to call everything or you're going to call nothing. And if you're going to be consistent about it, great. That way I know where I'm going. But if you're all over the place and you're calling an ish ton of fouls, and then you have a moment like we had late in the match that ultimately decided, I'll go ahead and say this. If you extrapolate it forward, I think it decided the match, whether it was going to be 1 point or 3 points, one way or the other. So have a defining moment like that happen late after what was or wasn't happening, depending on your perspective. Let me go to SofaScore real quick. And I said I wasn't going down this rabbit hole, but I guess I am. Okay, so, and like I said, we got highlights on Tristan Muyenbach coming up in a bit. So in this match with Dallas, I'm checking the number of fouls called, by the way. I'm just checking the foul numbers. And I love how SofaScore just kind of has a mind of its own. Okay, so look at the fouls called. 28 fouls called. And I've got to look at Fierro and see where he is when it comes to his numbers and see if that is about average for him. And so, let's see. So who was it that had all the pro? See now, because Pro's website used to have it, and I think it was Pro Referee. I guess I should say MLS referee saw foul numbers. MLS referee foul numbers. All right, so I'm workshopping this already. Who scored? Okay, so it's who scored is the one that's got the. All right, so no, I don't want 2017. I want 2025. All right, and ref stats. Okay, so ref stats, and we go to who scored. So we are looking up Ricardo Fierro. Okay, so Fierro at who scored, that's right in his wheelhouse. Legitimately, Ricardo Fierro is 5th in fouls per game average at 27.5. So that's right in there with him. So the fact that he called 28, that's right on his yearly average at 27.5. 1.02 fouls per tackles. Do we have tackles? Yeah, okay. So 20 tackles, 28 fouls. So that's a little under his numbers. So fouls per tackle, it is what's 20 over 28, 10 over 14, 5 over 7.73. So 0.73 as opposed to 1.02. Penalties per game, 1 quarter. So in the 4 matches, he's called the one penalty. 3 yellows per match. He's averaging 3 yellows a match. With on average calling 27.5 fouls, he's only giving 3 yellows. So that's his numbers so far this year. So he's somewhat consistent in his delivery so far this season, and the 1 red card so far. But Ricardo Fierro, 5th in fouls per game average at 27.5. And like I said, he called 28 on Saturday. A little under his fouls per tackles average, and well under the yellows per game average of 3. He had 11 yellows in his 3 previous matches, 1 in the matchup with Atlanta United. So, who scored? Let me go ahead and I will have this, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please, if you would bookmark this. And that's where we'll go from now on, to sit there and look up numbers for officials and averages and things like that. So, who scored is where we can go. Rosendo Mendoza, by the way, second in fouls per game at 31.75. We just haven't been blessed with Joe Dickerson yet this year, who's at number 3 at 30 1/3. Guido Gonzalez Jr. is at 28.4. Ricardo Fierro, 27.5. Philip Dujic, 26.83. Lucas Zapala is 10th at 25.2. Sergei Boyko is 11th at 25. Penso is averaging 25. Sergei Demyanchuk's averaging 25. But, yeah, Ricardo Fierro, 5th, coming through the weekend at 27.5 fouls called per match. But we'll save the cards and calls and playing things out and even-handedness and all that kind of stuff for Bart when he comes up here in about 20 minutes. We'll also talk USWNT with Bart, because we've got highlights where Brazil apparently was Brazilling. U.S. won it 2-0, and we'll go through all the talk involving that. Maddie and Jason set to join us in hour number 2 as well from Mercedes-Benz Stadium as the network gets ready for the continuation of the last 65 minutes of a match that was delayed 4 hours and 19 minutes yesterday after the first 24 minutes were played. I mean, you figured that Inter Miami CF2, the Messi and Friends 2, were not going to change their travel plans. And so they were going to be leaving today anyway. Okay, when are you leaving? Well, we're leaving at this time. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we do this? We can still play. You think we can dial up a larger building for you? It's going to be kind of an eerie atmosphere. It's going to like staffers and stuff and players and yelling. You might be able to hear coaches and strategy from the booth wherever they have Maddie and Jason set up. So we'll get into that in hour number 2. Okay, let's get into the highlights of the match, and let's hear from Tristan Muyumba. So obviously early on, Atlanta United was getting the pedal down early and getting themselves on the front foot. It was a great pass from Tristan Muyumba that got things started with a lead to Latte Lot. He's taken down in the inside the 18, which means it's a penalty, which means that Miggy steps up and Miguel Almiron from the spot. Here's Mike and Jason's call, courtesy of 92.9 The Game, Major League Soccer, and the Odyssey app.
Action at the goal to our right. Almiron against Paz. Miguel standing to the right of the ball with hands on hips. He's up to it. He strikes it. Score! Miguel Almiron from the penalty spot. He has scored in back-to-back matches for Atlanta United, and they are up.
That's where it was. It was 1-0 at the break, and then chances were there for Atlanta United in the first 45, trying to get that second and the third goal. They just did not get the second or third goal on the board. And Tristan Muyumba said after the match, if you don't get the second one, you leave yourself in a position where they can come back. And that's what happened. Second half, here's the goal with Peter Musa. And once again, courtesy of our friends 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app, Mike and Jason on the call.
Guzan giving it away to Shaq Moore in the central channel. Is then backheeled to him by Ramiro. Players stumble, crashing down the middle. It's Kamungo to Acosta, back to Musa. Shot blocked at point blank. Rebound back to him, and he cranks it in.
1-1, and that would be the end of it all by the end of the day. So it's 1-1, your final point shared, honors even, whatever cliches we like to use in that case. So 1-1 at the end of 90. And if you listen to the full-time report, and you can do that on the Off the Woodwork section in the podcasts over at 92.9 The Game. And also you can set up your Odyssey app for Off the Woodwork for anything that goes in from an Off the Woodwork perspective. It's one of those where you look at all the numbers, you look at all the effort, you look at the individual play, and then you look at the collective, and you're sitting there, and there's optimism that's attached. Yes, I know you only came out with 1 point. Yes, I know that you left opportunities on the table, but I think that the vibe is different, A, inside the locker room, and B, from what I've been able to gather for the most part from U17s when it comes to this season. It's like it's coming together. The patience is developing, and Ronnie Dyla, once again, is going to, if I could calm down and get my upper plate to work, Ronnie Dyla is going to continue to see the progression. He's going to continue to work things forward. he knows that they've done some things, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to get to where they are, to be the winning football team that he wants them to be. So after the match, Jason caught up with Tristan Muyumba, and in the conversation that we had with Abe, remember, we got to discuss Tristan's day, which was all over the place as the conductor, and I mean that in a very good way, hitting a bunch of different categories. Tristan Muyumba had a day. Here's part of the conversation that he had with Jason after the match. Once again, Full-Time Report, 92.9 The Game, and the Odyssey app.
Tristan, it's a game where it felt like different waves of momentum. You guys had it for a while. Dallas had it for a while. How did it feel out there to you?
No, I think tonight we got a lot of frustration because I think we did a really good play. We didn't concede a lot of chance, and we had a lot of chances to score the second one, but you know how football is. When you don't score the second one, you still, and the other team's still alive, you're still vulnerable, so you can concede, and that's what happened tonight. So we was really disappointed, but like the coach says, is a part of the process. We see a lot of improvement from the team, from everyone, and I think now we start to understand and also show what the coach wants about the team, and we start to show our identity. So yeah.
Specifically, the double pivot with you and Bartek to start, and then you and Jay to finish. What does he want to see from you in that role, playing both sides, defensively and offensively?
No, just to play simple, to be ready for any duels, any challenge, and try to regain the ball, play forward, play simple, try to also switch the play as well. That's our task. So that's I think, like I say, we did well. Even when Jay went in, he understand quicker his task, and yeah, but like we still having a lot of frustration because I think we did.
Deserved a little bit more tonight, and I think that, like I said, and that's why I wanted to play that first little bit from Tristan and the conversation that he had with Jason, because the players are understanding where Ronnie Dial and the coaching staff are coming from when it comes to demands and what they're looking for on the field. And it just comes with reps and game state and implementing it to continue to make it just as a natural feel going forward. So that was a very telling first couple of minutes with a conversation that Jason had with Tristan Muyumba, and we went over the numbers that Tristan had in the match. And like I said, he hit a bunch of different categories. He really did. And you're seeing him in this conductor role. And Ronnie Dial once again continues to say that he has been very, very pleased with the growth that he has seen from Tristan Muyumba. And it is a role where you're going to have to run a lot. And Tristan seems to be at home with this task and being available. Like I said, without Miggy scoring the goal, I think it is safe to say that Tristan would have had the highest rating with our friends at SofaScore on the night. Miggy had a 7.6. Latte Lot and Tristan had 7.4s. Shonday had a 7.2. Bart and Luisa Brom had 7s. Everybody else was in the 6s. Saba had a 6.9. Matt Edwards had a 6.9. Gregerson at 6.5. Lennon a 6.6. Brad a 6.7. Then you get into the bench. Ronnie had a 6.7. Jay Fortune came in, almost punched a 7. Noah had a 7 in only 23 minutes. So Noah Cobb comes in 23 minutes. 1 block, 25 touches, 1 incomplete or 1 pass that did not meet its intended destination. 23-24 passing in 23 minutes. 25 touches for Noah Cobb, 4 for 4 on his long balls on the day. So literally, if you look at those numbers for Noah Cobb punched a 7 in 23 minutes. 25 touches, 23-24 passing, and 4 for 4 on his long balls with a block that came in late. Miranchuk came in and Jamal came in. They each had north of 6 in 23 minutes. Alexi had 23 minutes. Jamal had just a cup of coffee subbing in for Saba. So not used Josh Cohen, Mateus Click, Luke Brennan, Will Riley. And the injured were Pedro, who was out, Edwin, who was out, Derek Williams, who was out. I think it was a hamstring injury that he picked up at practice on Friday, I think, if I remember Doug Robertson of the AJC and his wording there. So Noah Cobb once again punched a 7. But if you pull Miggy's goal off the board, just knowing what happened at the end of the day, Tristan and Latte Lot each had 7 4s. I think Latte Lot's number would have increased if it did not have the yellow card attached to it as well. So, like I said, go back to the Off the Woodwork section at 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app, save Off the Woodwork, and then that way you can listen to full-time reports and such. But yeah, it was a great conversation that Jason had with Tristan after the match. And so very, very cool that Tristan was as forthcoming as he was. And Tristan seems to be adapting to what he's being asked to do. And so you're seeing the end results there when it comes to all of that. And Abby, to your point, yeah, Martin Paz guessed correctly, but Miggy, we all know what Miggy can do when he launches into a soccer ball. He can hit it with a very high rate of speed. But yeah, I don't think it was about as perfectly placed as you could get if you're going to go low on Martin Paz. And you had Paz almost make the save, but he was a little high in his dive off to his right. So Miggy, as a lefty, opened up, went to his left, Paz's right, got it past Paz, and you end up with the PK for Miggy. Miggy now is tied for second when it comes to MLS goals for Atlanta United with some guy named Thiago Almada. So then some guy named Joseph, who almost had 4 yesterday for San Jose, and that's something else to talk about. Something to keep an eye on, and I know that I'm kind of winding off of the road here for a second, but after what happened yesterday involving DC United and San Jose, and Brian Dunseth had made this point, he wanted to know where the leaders are for DC United. And that's the biggest thing to look at here. Where are the leaders for DC United? After what happened yesterday, where it should have been 7, and it was only 6. 6 on the board for San Jose against DC United. What's the future in DC United? I honestly, legitimately thought that Troy Lacine was not going to make it to the tarmac last night. Yeah, I thought that Troy Lacine was not going to make it to the tarmac last night. I thought that there might be some players left behind, or Troy Lacine would be left behind. Keep an eye on DC United. We're trying to sit there and look at hot spots and hot seats. I don't know if the seat is hot for the players that are on that roster for Troy Lacine, or if it's Troy Lacine because he's the coach. Whether it's deserved for Lacine or not, keep an eye on DC United and see if anything goes down involving them and either a massive switch of player personnel when it comes to lineups and such next time out, or if Troy Lacine is not going to be on the touchline for much longer at DC. It was a thumping yesterday, and now I keep an eye on DC and see what's going on with DC. So that's the larger point in out of DC. So with all of that going on, obviously yesterday we've got all the news and notes with Atlanta United and Atlanta United making it in The twos, once again, we'll get into that discussion when Maddie and Jason crash here in hour number 2 in and around Bart Keeler. But the twos have an interesting week because of starting to play yesterday, finishing today, which I think would have been a region day anyway. Then you end up with your region day tomorrow. Then you're flying to Chester Wednesday to play on Thursday. And we'll have that for you on the network. Pregame show, let's see, I think pregame, when is the, I think it's a 7:30 kick. And so pregame would be like 7:15, I think. So we'll catch up with Steve Cook tomorrow and get into the conversations there. You get to hear that conversation on Thursday pregame before Atlanta United 2 goes to Philadelphia Union 2. Hey, Rich, go watch. So that's coming up. But once again, remember, in an hour over on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, and on the Mixler app, which you can download, MIXLR, pregame show for Atlanta United 2 and Inter Miami CF 2. Messi and Friends 2 stayed in town because, like I said, I didn't figure that they were flying out yesterday because the match was supposed to be at 7:30, and then they move it, and you figure your travel plans to get out on a Monday. So, okay, fine, when are you leaving? Match is going to pick back up at 24:09 at 11 o'clock inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Maddie and Jason are there. They'll have the call for you on our Mixler channel, on the Mixler app, soccerdownhere.net. And you can go to the listen tab, and there's usually like a big old siren when there's something live going either on SDH1 or SDH2. So you'll have that coming up a little before 11. 11 o'clock is when they pick the match up at 24:09 inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We'll be there for that. You can listen to it. Like I said, show might end a little early just so we can get everything oriented here and get everything squared away for that particular matchup with the remainder of Messi and Friends 2 and Atlanta United 2, once again picking up at 24:09. Pregame show a little before 11. Match picks up at 24:09 in the first half at 11 o'clock at Mercedes-Benz. Maddie and Jason will have the call for you coming up in just a bit. Reminder once again, very, very busy week for us on the high school side of things, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. It is today, weather permitting, Fort Payne at Coahulla Creek, 6 o'clock. It's a one-match. It's a one-match deal. And weather permitting, I'll have that one for you from Coahulla Creek. Tomorrow, big doubleheader, West Forsyth and River Ridge. Drew Dickinson will be on the call for that at 5:30 and 8 because it's senior night. And they have 21 seniors at River Ridge, 7 on the girls' side, 14 on the boys. I think it's 21. And so 5:30 is the girls' match, nationally ranked West Forsyth and River Ridge. Senior night with senior activities at River Ridge. 8 o'clock, boys' match. Boys at River Ridge are the ones that are nationally ranked. And so it'll be a great matchup with West Forsyth and River Ridge, 5:30 and 8 tomorrow on the network. Drew Dickinson will have both of those matchups for you. Wednesday, Jason is hosting SDHAM. Oh, which reminds me, Soccer's in Session is tomorrow at noon. Coyote Uchimura, the head coach for Druid Hills, will be on at noon to kick things off. It's Tuesday this week because Wednesday I am not in the driver's seat for the morning show. Jason's going to be back to drive the morning show with Tyler and Dylan. Then I'm without mobile device. I'm in a place where I'm not supposed to have a mobile device. And I don't know if I can say the name of the tournament, but it's going on this week. And there are a lot of jackets that can be worn and azaleas and things like that. So Wednesday, I'm out of pocket. Can't even take my phone into the place. You can only take old school cameras. So I'll be watching a lot of players on a very, very short course on Wednesday. And then Thursday, everything will be back to normal. I'll do the morning show from a hotel room, then come back here to the office. Atlanta United 2 and Philadelphia Union 2. That's Thursday night here on the network, and that's at 7 o'clock. Pre-game show a little bit before that. Friday, we know where we'd like to be on Friday. We're waiting to hear back from the powers that are for our doubleheader on Friday. Once again, 2 weeks left in the regular season, and then the playoffs start. And then it is in session pretty much every day, and it's also high school stuff every day and all that. So it's going to be crazy. But that is the week as it is. Nino and Nico Thursday, Friday, hopefully, our friends from Beyond Goals getting you ready for the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Getting ready for Atlanta United and New England on Saturday afternoon at 2:30. So we got all that. Time to catch my breath. Okay. Now, hour number two. I'm late, I'm horribly late. Well, I'm not really, but anyway, it's 10 o'clock. Time to bring Bart in. And we got a couple things to discuss with you, sir.
Fantastic.
What I do want to start with, obviously, and we are going to be something of a nimble sort here in hour number two, because we are also waiting for the live report from Mercedes-Benz Stadium, preparing for Atlanta United 2 and Messi and Friends 2. So that might happen with Maddie and Jason at some point here. So we'll keep everybody posted. So when they parachute in, we'll talk twos, and we'll talk craziness, and we'll talk the battle for the broken broom. I think that's what we've given this rivalry now. I do have reffing down here a lot. I've done more philosophical involving reffing down here, but I do want to start with the WNT and what happened at SoFi. Now, do you know? Now, it looked like the surface was offset from what we're used to seeing at SoFi. It did not look like its normal self. Were they testing grass? What was going on?
That seems to be the case, John. They have been testing the surface. Obviously, during Nations League finals, we got the first test. This seemed to be the second test, which kind of explains why they chose to play in SoFi. You know, what at that point, 5 matches in the span of 2 weeks. So I do think this was them testing the field and everything to make sure it's right for next summer, because, John, next summer we have a major tournament coming to the United States. You may have heard of it. So I think this is really that preparation.
Okay. And because, like I said, it was just an odd look. It was offset, and I'm like, wait a second. It almost looks like it's shorter, but was the field shorter, or was it?
Well, so I do think that it was a little shorter. I couldn't tell. Obviously, I'm not out there with my protractors and rulers, but most of the time when you look at NFL stadiums, they tend to have a concave curve, I think is the term, where it will get really obviously wide at the middle, but it gets very narrow around right where the goal line would start for football, right where the end zone starts. So for soccer, which is about 20 yards longer, recommended longer than a football field, wider than a football field, I should say. A lot of times that means you have to concede length to get the proper width. Football stadiums just are not built for soccer. You see most soccer stadiums in Europe tend to have, if they have some sort of concave, it's not very pronounced, but they tend to be more rectangular. Whereas a lot of the NFL stadiums definitely have a curve to them, because I don't know why, but that does cause a tightening at the goal line. And I do think that's just because for football, you have, John, as you know, the 53.5-yard wide field. And then in the middle, you have about 20 feet or 20 yards on either side that are for the teams, right? I mean, so that is factored into the stadium build. But then they try to get really close at the goal line, which, makes sense. That's where the action happens, but not super conducive to adding a soccer field to it.
Yes, but you'd like to think that maybe, I don't know, that if you were someone who owns a soccer club in one.
Well, in name only, John. Let's not pretend like he knows what's going on over there. But by the way, who built a soccer stadium, 2 now, but built a world-class 60,000 seat soccer stadium before. Anyway, John, I'm not here to talk about my grievances with the owner of Arsenal. Continue.
Right. All right. So USWNT starts their doubleheader with friendlies with Brazil. There were the moments of Brazil going Braziling, from what I understand. But by the end of the day, you got to see what Trinity Rodman once again means to the WNT. Lindsay Heaps from the spot. You end up with a 2-0 win. You get out the door.
Well, I think this is a great test because 2 months ago, back in February, not a full 2 months, because it was the end of February, and now we're at the start of April, so it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel that long ago. But you know what I'm saying. Back in February, you had 2 games against teams that maybe not the best opponents right now. Colombia probably a little bit more tenacious. Australia's in disarray without having a real head coach in charge. And then you play Japan. Japan, obviously the big girls at the table, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you lost. Now, you lost because of a lot of reasons, mainly because you are in a transitional period, and Emma's really focused on trying to find those players who can cut it at the international level. But you still lost to Japan 2-1, and that's essentially a final. Brazil is in that level, right? They're in the stratosphere of Japan, where if you're not ready to play your best, you will lose because they're very good. And to get a 2-0 win on the backs of that loss, and Emma talked about this, she wanted to see how the team would respond to loss and to that adversity. And that is the biggest positive. The next biggest positive, John, is, as you mentioned, Trinity Rodman is back. She is scoring, and she looked good partnering with Katarina Macario, but you could tell that they weren't used to playing with each other all that much because, John, they haven't.
Yes.
So,
injuries.
That was my biggest takeaway from the attack, outside of Alyssa Thompson being fantastic. I'll get to her in a second. But that entire first half, when the U.S. was doing good things, which was about half of the first half, it was because Kat and Trin are exceptional players, and they were often operating on that same half of the field because Kat would kind of come over to the right side. That is going to be something that I think, as Sophia Wilson is out with, having a baby, being a mom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this is in a bad way, but man, Kat looks like she could be a better partner for Trin because she is the way she plays. She's a little bit more back to goal hold up, which she's very good at that. And her passing is fantastic. Trinity benefited from that. They need to work together to kind of time. Trinity needs to learn how to time her runs a little bit better. Kat needs to learn where to put that ball for Trinity. But they were really fun to watch together.
And when you have moments like this, once again, courtesy of our friends at Max TNT and US Soccer, you can see why. Luke Wildman, Julie Foudy on the call.
9.
Thompson driving forward here. It's Alyssa Thompson into the heart of the back line. Trinity Rodman! Trinity Rodman is back! Within 5 minutes of her first game for the US since the Olympic final, Trinity Rodman finds the back of the net.
And you gotta just love the pink, the swagger, the shot of espresso, and what a ball this is, with Alyssa Thompson deciding, I'm gonna cut in, and then look at the pace she puts on this ball. Trinity Rodman with that little slip run. Great first touch, but it's Thompson's pace on the ball that allows this to happen. And Rodman with that little slip touch there past Lorena. A great goal for the United States.
Julie Foudy's not wrong.
Nope. That's the next person I want to talk about, John, because Alyssa Thompson was my player of the match. I know she didn't score. She got the assist. She recognizes that with Mouse Swanson doing whatever Mouse Swanson is doing that is not playing soccer right now, there is a gap at the left wing position for this U.S. women's national team. She wants it, and she's out there trying to grab it because this performance, now granted, maybe it's because she's playing in her hometown. That could be it. That's great. Good for her. But she was phenomenal on the ball, off the ball. That goal, she sits down her defender with a nice little 1-2 move, blows past her, dribbles in, finds a great pass to Trinity Rodman, who fantastically finishes with the outside of her right foot. Alyssa Thompson, for me, was the player of the match because she was so active and so good on and off the ball. And to the point where reporters were asking Emma, were you doing something different with her? The answer is no. She was playing left wing. But I think what you saw was with Kat pulled slightly more to the right to partner with Trinity. Alyssa also kind of moved a little more central, right? And then you also had Crystal Dunn on your left wing, who, as we know, is a great soccer player. That allowed her to find the ball more and find it in spaces where you can apply your pick your head up and go winger mentality of you're going to take people on. But at that point, you're eliminating 2 people instead of just 1 on the wing. And it was really effective for her throughout the match.
Brazil and USA 2-0 at SoFi in front of just over 32,000. They're going to meet again Tuesday.
Oh, boy, John, that has been a talking point on the Twitters.
Oh?
32,000
at SoFi has been a talking.
First off, congratulations. That's a great number for the women's team to pull. Still not higher than what we got in Atlanta last year, but good for LA. I guess they did okay. But there's been the picture of the start of the U.S.-Panama game and the U.S.-Canada game, paired next to the attendance, the wide shot of this game before kickoff, and it's just such a lazy comparison. But I don't think that means that the U.S. women wouldn't have not outdrawn the U.S. men there. It's just a lazy comparison.
And you look at what went down. You also had 2 players that got their first caps in all of this. We'll go through all of the grades, and we'll roll through the grades like we always do. Theodore Lloyd Hughes was the one who gave us the numbers this time from Soccer America. But you had 2 individuals who got their first caps. One was a cup of coffee with Avery Patterson.
Yeah.
The other was between the sticks and in conversations that I have been hearing involving the future of goal for the USMNT.
Yeah.
It's about blanking time that PTJ was involved in this discussion.
Yeah, Fallon Joyce finally gets, a girl who was very good in NWSL when she was here. To the point where I think it was maybe a little shocking, not shocking, but why wasn't she didn't she get a call up earlier? Just because it could have happened. First time in actual camp, she got second time in actual camp. I'm sorry, first time starting. She proved the thing that she does better than any goalkeeper in this pool, John, and that's keep the ball out of the back of the net. She had some great saves. She does get the clean sheet. That to me, and I think this is modern soccer gets a little too caught up on, can a goalkeeper pass the ball out of the back? Well, that's great, but if the goalkeeper can't stop the ball from going into the net, what does it matter if they can complete a 5-yard pass? She does need to improve on that. That is something that Emma has been hesitant to include her into the lineup for that reason. But I'm sorry, I need a goalkeeper who can keep the ball out of the back of the net. And if you can do that, for me, you got a chance to be the starter for this national team because, one, you can learn better passing movements. Unfortunately for her, Manchester United women's don't believe in passing, and that's not her fault. But I guess that's what happens when you hire someone who's like Welsh. I don't know. They don't really pass the ball either.
Wow.
The Brits in passing aren't exactly they're not a match made in heaven. But anyway, point is, Emma wants this team to be more in possession. And that was one of the things that when we started spiraling out of control, the game did, not super out of control, but when Brazil started getting their teeth into the game, it's because we were making bad passing decisions and making bad passes. So that does kind of start at the goalkeeper. I don't think Fallon herself made any of those bad passes, but you could tell that her passes were not helping us get out of whatever pressure we were making. And a lot of times in her goal kicks and other kicks, she was just going long, which is definitely not what Emma wants from this team. So she does need to learn that, but she's not really going to learn that outside of playing. And I'm telling you, I'd rather play the girl who can keep the ball out of the back of the net, John. To me, that is the most important thing that a goalkeeper can do. But what do I know? I didn't play goalkeeper for a while or anything.
Well, so keeping the ball out of the net is a big thing.
Yeah, so you can ask. There's this really awesome female goalkeeper that you all have connections to. Her name's Jessica Sharman. I don't know if you've talked to her recently. You can probably ask her about that too. I think she would agree that keeping the ball out of the back of the net is probably really important.
Abby, to answer your question, Abby was wondering about ticket prices for SoFi. I saw the get-in was at $75.
Yeah, they were a little more expensive than I would like for a women's friendly. I think all friendlies should be like $30 max, but U.S. Soccer's not asking me, despite them being 5 minutes down the road. But it's definitely fair to say that the women's friendly was cheaper than the men's game because, obviously, as we've talked about, John, ad nauseum on this entire stratosphere,
Mm-hmm.
CONCACAF loves to say, "Oh, it's 2 matches, so you're paying for 2 matches." So the $150 is, I guess, technically $75 a game, but. But yes, the women drew 32,000. I think that is alone a perfectly acceptable thing, and we should be happy for that.
And to answer the follow-up question at PayPal Park, get in right now is $94.38.
Yeah, I don't love that.
According to our friends at the master of the tickets.
Yeah.
And in the 100 section, the way that it's structured at PayPal Park is that you have the fancy seats, and they are like in the smaller numbers. They're 2 numbers. And then the 100 level, which we would think of as like the Mez or the 200 level, is 100 level at PayPal, and the single digits, the everything from 1 to 34 is your box seats down low. The 100 level, which under normal circumstances would be a 200 level, perhaps in every other stadium that we know, anywhere from $100 to the end zones, which could be 160. Yeah. So you're looking.
To be fair, John, from what it looks like, everything's sold out.
Yeah, I'm looking.
So these are all resale.
This is secondary market on on the Master of the Tickets website.
But getting a price to start was still like $78, which is, I'm sorry, just way too much. U.S. Soccer, I know you're selling out, but PayPal's an 18,000 seat stadium, so stop pretending like you're making massive moves here.
Get in right now, secondary market, $94.38.
$70 for a friendly at your lowest. $78 for a friendly as your lowest price is unacceptable. That needs to be lower. I'm just saying.
Pre-match average of 55.5 caps per player. Least experienced WNT starting 11 to face Brazil since January of 1996 when it was 52.4. At 28-168, Fallon Tullis-Joy, second oldest keeper to earn her first USWNT cap after whom, sir?
First cap?
First cap, second oldest keeper to earn her first cap.
Oh, Aubrey Kingsbury.
Very good.
30-143.
Yeah. So matchup is at 10:30 Eastern on Tuesday night, Brazil, USA in the friendly. All right, so here's
watch from couch in your pajamas.
That's
or in bed. I don't know.
USWNT after dark. PTJ gets a 7, 6 saves on the day. Perry in the second half from Giovanni Quiroz. Once again, was a positive in the eyes of TLH over at Soccer America. Smart early rush off her line. So PTJ gets a 7 out of the blocks between the sticks.
Yeah. Again, I think her first match getting a clean sheet, I really, really, really want to see her, mainly because I don't think any of the other goalkeepers here are worth investing the time in. Mandy McGlynn, she's fine. If she's your third goalkeeper going forward, fine, whatever. Fallon is, to me, the goalkeeper we should be putting our time and energy into if you're not bringing Casey Murphy in as well. I personally want to see Casey and Fallon in a camp together, see them battle it out. Even throw in Jane Campbell in there, who we love her. She's from Georgia, but I don't think she's starting goalkeeper quality for the U.S. women's national team. But she could be a third goalkeeper very easily. But I think right now you have a true battle between Fallon and Casey. You should be having a true battle between Fallon and Casey in camp. And we don't have it because Casey's not here.
Back 4, Emily Fox, Emily Sonnet, each with 5s. Tara McEwen got a 6. Crystal Dunn in her 158 cap gets a 7. High marks for Crystal Dunn on the day.
I thought the back line looked mostly okay. Tara had a look. The last time we saw Tara McEwen, not great against Colombia. Definitely but the first time we saw her, I should say. She's definitely improved since then. I love Emily Sonnet, another Georgia girl, but we do need to find someone not named Emily Sonnet to be our starting center back. she just has too many limitations, both physically, and she is also not the best distributor of the ball. Obviously, Naomi Graham are hurt, but I would like to see someone other than Emily Sonnet get some more minutes.
And so McEwen on the day, 3 blocks. And
Yeah.
that's what
She was good. She was very good.
Midfielders. On the day, Sam Coffey, Allie Sentner got 5s. Lindsay Heaps gets a 6 in her 164th cap.
So I think important to note, Sentner, not a new position, but new for her time with the U.S. Women's National Team, playing more of a central attacking midfield role. I think she struggled a little bit to be noticeable in the game, so I think a 5 is fair. Coffey, unfortunately for her, Brazil might not be the best type of team for her to be the lone. She wasn't really alone. Lindsay was there, but she's not a chase you down from behind type of player. And Brazil is a very dribbly team. They're very dynamic when they have the ball at their feet. And Sam's not quite that type of center of defensive midfielder. She's a good ball winner, but that's different than like intercepting a pass is different than taking a ball off someone's foot. And once you get running at her, it's going to be bad news for Sam. But I think it's good to hashtag dribbling. I think it's good for her to play these games because I think she is our best option at that defensive midfield spot.
All right. And then you look at, and the mention from Theodore Lloyd Hughes was that the formation continued to drift. And he's talking about hybrid 4-3-3s and 4-2-4s and things like that. Literally, it is what it is at this point. I mean, if it's a picture at the beginning, that's what it looks like. And then when the whistle happens and the ball gets kicked, then things can go.
Ask your friend Jason when he comes on what he thinks about lineup graphics.
Yeah. Lineup graphics take up 30 seconds so you can sit there and talk about the starting 11. Yeah. I'm in the same way. It's like, all right, bang. All right. So, so you have a graphic up. That's not really what they're going to be, but okay, you've got a graphic up. Congratulations.
You know, in fairness to some of these coaches, I think you can look at the lineup graphic more of the defensive structure for the most part. Because when you attack, attacking formations look nothing like a 4-3-3. That's not the point. And yeah, it's hilarious that some of these things they're saying.
Yes. So let's go to forwards. Trinity Rodman a 7, Kat Macario a 6, Alyssa Thompson gets you an 8.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think give Alyssa Thompson a little bit more credit because she played longer than Trinity, but I don't know. I thought Kat did better than a 6. That's just me. But I thought all of those women had a very good showing, and then again, we get the one shot of Espresso back. We're still missing the other 2, but I think Kat is not a shot of espresso. She's the milk that makes it digestible.
Oh, okay.
So if we're talking about a cappuccino or a latte, she's the steamed frothy milk because she's a little bit more elegant, a little more sexy on the ball. She makes everything work because a shot of espresso is it hitting you in the face, and that very much is what Sophia, Mal, and Trinity do. But Kat makes everything kind of a little more palatable. You feel a little more comfy and cozy. You get to enjoy it a little bit more. Not maybe the other team is enjoying it, but as a fan, we're enjoying watching it. And I think Alyssa Thompson for me, as that rating clearly states, she was my player of the match. She was fantastic.
There you go. All right. So you roll through that. You get into your subs. Lily Johannes a 7, Michelle Cooper a 6, Ashley Hatch and Jaden Shaw and Yasmin Ryan each got 5s. Obviously, Avery Patterson just had the cup of coffee.
I thought for Lily, it's again just exhibit. I don't know what we're on right now. Homegirl's the future. I mean, she just is. Credit to, I think, Emma, though, for not throwing her to the wolves quite yet, because she made this point in her post-game presser, and I think it's very important to remember because John, there is a level of Euro snobism that's made its way into the women's side. The Brazil team is better than anything Lily Johannes faces in the Dutch league. It's just the fact. And while Lily is playing at a fairly high level with Ajax, she didn't get Champions League time this year, which she did last year. we need to be cognizant of the fact that on this side of the pond, we have a lot better talent and better leagues than what they have on the other side of the pond, comparatively, when you look at men's versus women's. There does seem to be a narrative that, oh, well, you're playing in Europe, you must be better. People who watch this women's sport understand that NWSL, Liga MX Femenil, and all the South American countries that are producing talent that is just as good as what you see in Europe. And a lot of these European leagues just aren't as meaty as, say, NWSL or Liga MX. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Wait. So you're saying just because you don't play in Europe that you actually might be playing a decent amount? You might be playing.
Yeah, I do think it's fair to say. Okay, we're gonna get into this. If you look at the leagues of the women's game, right? I think it's look, NWSL, the American League, is still to me the most competitive and the most overall collection of talent.
Right.
Every league you're going to play in that and NWSL, except for Chicago because they're cursed by changing their name, are going to be competitive, competent, complete teams with talent at every single position. NWSL is number one. Number two is England's WSL, because you have a lot of very wealthy clubs making investment into their women's structures. So you've got Arsenal, who's been leading the way for the while, Chelsea, who's now the best in the league. You still got United and City who are putting money into it. You've still got teams like Villa, Tottenham, Liverpool, who are starting to actually take their women's side seriously. That is number two. After that, it's kind of a crapshoot. I mean, I think actually Liga Femenil in Spain has gotten a lot better because some of the other teams in Spain are actually kind of investing. Not a whole lot. We're not giving them too much credit.
Right.
But it's just Barcelona and a bunch of players and a bunch of teams underneath it. That's a problem, right? We're talking about competitiveness. France, kind of the same thing. You've got Lyon, you got PSG, a couple others that are maybe okay. Paris FC isn't bad, but like just not competitive, John.
Liga MX Femenil.
Yeah, that's the Frauen Bundesliga, same thing. Of you've got Wolfsburg, who's a disaster at this point right now. I don't know what happened at that club. Bayern Munich is making some inroads, but like you don't even have like a Dortmund or a Frankfurt or any of those other, like, you know, Mönchengladbach. None of those other clubs that we really associated with success on the men's side have found a way to find their women's team that success. So the point is, there may be more better teams in Europe, right? If you look at across the board. But the problem is because they're all striated into different leagues, they just don't get the competition. You know, that's just the reality. And NWSL, Liga MX are competitive week in and week out that you just don't have in a lot of other leagues in the world.
All right, so this is halftime with us because, as promised, we go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and check in with the broadcast booth with Maddie and Jason. Now, are you in the 92.9 booth right now?
Yeah, we specially requested it. We were going to be in the La Mejor booth, but I mean, come on. I've called games from this booth for a long time. If it's open, we're going to take it.
Yep. So we're officially at halftime with Bart here. And so I wanted to, for those that missed the 4-hour and 19-minute rain delay yesterday.
Oh, geez.
Well, the only thing missing was us talking about kind of, you know, Chud, the movie coming up after on TBS.
We didn't throw it to an Andy Griffith rerun, no.
No, we were that close. But 24:09 in yesterday. We got the match started at noon, got to 24:09. And as you said on the air, Jason, when the AR wanders out onto the field, that's not a good thing.
Not a good sign when the field is already taking on a ton of water. There's lightning in the vicinity, and there's a whole bunch more coming. We saw all kinds of things that I will never forget. We saw a broom lose its life trying to make the field playable. That happened in real time. We saw the referees come out and inspect and roll a ball on various portions of the field. And then we saw Steve Cook come out and ping balls all over the field, and Jose Silva as well. Lewis Sharp. We saw all kinds of gesticulations from lots of different individuals. We never got to see the game get restarted, but
After we left, then we get the news that it is going to get restarted, which is what we thought. With Miami being in town, you want to get the game in. You don't want to have them have to buy plane tickets and come back another time. That's expensive for a team to do that. And the schedule's pretty crowded as it is. So we're like, what can you do? Are you going to play it the next morning? We didn't know when we left. And by the time I got my food at the Cookout drive-thru, we found out that we were going to be coming here in the morning to do this game behind closed doors in kind of an eerily recent 2020 vibe this morning.
Yeah, but the only thing missing is LGP yelling at the top of his lungs.
The one thing that is new, though, because they're working on the new club seating in the 300 level, there will be quite a bit of construction noise during the game, which is going to be a whole new element that I'm not used to.
No, it's going to be nuts. That's for sure.
All right, so Maddie, from the first 24:09 from yesterday, 22 hours ago, what are your thoughts from the first 24:09 as we get ready to pick things back up at the top of the hour for the final 65 minutes plus halftime?
Well, first of all, it was hilarious because I was also getting food. And when I get the call from Jason that, hey, by the way, we're doing the twos game, but you'll never guess where. And here we are at the Benz. But no, I mean, it was very chaotic. It was a very chaotic first 24, 25. It never felt like it had a rhythm because it was just so back and forth. You're dealing with the conditions, fifth, third, from being there as a student, from seeing all the other sports that play there, as well as the twos, that field's already really slick as it is. And so you add rain, and not just rain, but like torrential downpour of rain and puddles and everything. There was a lot of slipping and slipping. Neither team could find their footing. It was back and forth. And Miami was doing a thing where almost like an Alba situation, having him almost like push all the way up, and you're acting as like multiple forwards in the sense, and just more attack there. Atlanta was finally able to figure that out. But, as we said, the game got stopped before it could really get going, I think.
Bart Keeler for Maddie and Jason, live at Mercedes-Benz. Anything on your mind, sir?
I'm just glad that you guys had to go through what referees have to go through of testing and seeing if a field is good enough to play on, and really what it takes to say, no, we can't play this match again. My question is, though, legitimately, you're now changing surfaces. And while the surface last night was more of a bog than a soccer field, how do you think that changes now that we're literally, three-quarters of the way in to a half? That's going to be problematic.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think Miami, like the way that they're playing with their academy teams, with their second team, and elements of the first team, although you adjust for Messi and Suarez, they're very aggressive with their pressure. They're very chaotic. They get a lot of numbers forward in the attack and also in transition moments and also in counter pressure. So they're going to want to bring the chaos, and you're already going to be discombobulated here because you're playing at 11 o'clock in the morning. You're playing, in an empty stadium. You're playing, for some people, their first time ever in the Benz. For some of the guys, it's their first time ever in a major stadium. We walked in and Sal Masafero was on the field, and he'd been on the field for quite a while, like soaking it all in. So you've got all these different elements that the opening stages could be really, really weird. And then the other element is, you're going for 20 minutes and then taking a break and then playing a normal 45. So the flow is going to be bizarre. I don't know. I think in this game, for me, it's whoever gets control the quickest to try to stamp their imprint on the game. I think for Atlanta, that's having a little more of the possession, keeping it a little bit more, making Miami come chase you and look for that ball over the top. For Miami, it's just bringing the thunder and bringing the noise and forcing you into some mistakes, but getting those extra runners in behind like we saw early.
And even too, like we were talking about it before, because we're not exactly sure where the game is going to pick up where it was, because I believe before, when everything stopped, it was a corner for Atlanta and it was on the near corner flag on the right side. And so it'll be interesting if it's going to pick up right from there, or if we're going to do a drop ball, or what's it going to be. We have no idea. So from the jump,
what you're
it could
saying
be
is
a very weird thing.
Score. We need to come out there and get ready to score.
I mean,
score on
score
the
on
opening
the opening corner.
Yes.
and keep it going. And you know what? Hey, anything can happen. I mean, what happened yesterday, we lost a broom, RIP to the KSU yellow broom that, broke in half. You did your job. You did well. Unfortunately, I believe that it's still left there at
It was there when we
at Fifth Third. But no, I mean, it could be really interesting for the first 20, and then who knows? It was already becoming a very physical game, as it always is with Atlanta versus Inter Miami, and we saw it when we played them earlier this year as well with the U18s and the U16s. It was very, very physical matchup. So you're also dealing with a little bit of those emotions as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
All right. So when is pregame before 11 o'clock kick picks things back up at 24:09?
15 minutes. You can listen by clicking listen on soccerdownhere.net. You can listen on the Mixler app. You can go to soccerdownhere.mixler.com as well. And please tune in because it's going to be one of the weirdest games that we have really ever seen. I don't know if they're going to come out like starters would. I don't know how this thing's going to get started. I don't think we're going to get an anthem. I don't think we have PA. We don't have monitors. We have the delayed broadcast. It will be, if you want to watch and sync us up, you can go to MLSnextPro.com and find a link. But it's going to be weird, so join us for weirdness.
Yes, join you for weirdness. Pregame show, pregame weirdness in 10 and match weirdness in 24. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll be listening and watching. See you in a bit.
Adios.
Bye, y'all.
Yes, Bart. So pregame weirdness in 14 minutes.
I kind of wish we could go down there. Not gonna lie, that would be fun.
I know it's closed door with construction and everything else going on. And I thought I heard whistles, so they might actually be doing Monday practice early on the turf.
I could see it. Yeah, honestly, if you're talking about the senior team, they're probably doing some sort of something out there.
I thought I heard whistles in the background, like and all that. So, all right. So since we've been talking refs, I do want to get into reffing down here.
Oh boy.
And discussing the 2M4 that was in the middle, the Pontiac Fiero, and I want to take this from a couple of different points. I want to, and I went to Who Scored, and I posted the link in the Twitch pitch, so folks can have it as a reference point going forward when it comes to number of fouls per tackle, penalties, yellows total called, all that kind of stuff. So it's in the Twitch pitch for anybody that wants to follow along. And I wanted to discuss consistency and calling a match a certain way versus overcorrecting. And then I wanted to get into mass confrontation and whether or not it is, if you're supposed to, we talk about the rule book being flexible, and we've talked about that in the past, what's flexible and what isn't, and just the overall administration of a match. Where would you like to start in this conversation involving what happened on the weekend?
So I guess the question there is, let's start with how do we manage and keep a match what we went to say is consistent throughout.
Right.
Let's talk about that. There are this is what I think people need to understand too when you're asking for consistency from referees, and I'm not saying we don't need to ask for that. Every match is also different, right? Again, a Philadelphia New York Red Bull match is way different than a Houston Atlanta match is going to be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because of the styles make fights. And fights
one is soccer, one is bumper cars. So that is going to be issue number one, right? And so as a referee, while yes, you want to keep things within the box that we are supposed to keep them in, the reality is you're going to have matches where things are not in that box for one way, shape, or form. But as the referee, and at this level especially, they should be doing their preparation. They should know the type of challenges that are going to be coming in, the players and who is more likely to commit, possible bad fouls. You should know a little bit more about the game than just going in blind. So you should have some level of expectation for yourself of, okay, I need to make sure I'm not allowing things to get to here. But again, it is hard because matches can also then change within a match, right?
Yes.
You know, for example, in Atlanta versus Dallas, you have, I'm not calling it a soft penalty because it wasn't a soft penalty. It was a foul inside the penalty area, right? But I think a lot of people would deem it soft because it had no real effect on a goal really being scored. Is that a fair
Yeah.
assessment of what happened?
Yeah.
Like, it's a foul, but it had nothing to do with taking a shot on goal or any real offensive play. It was just a ball that happened to find its way in the box, and guy shouldn't have been grabbing our attacker.
Mhm.
That's a no-no.
Yes.
But that thing can then change the rest of the match.
Right.
And Jason's always right. Goals change games. Well, so can types of fouls, or there are a lot of moments that change the temperature and inflection of a game.
Right.
And so as a referee, you kind of also have to be anticipating that, okay, well, I just gave a penalty kick to a team. That team who just conceded it is going to be looking for something, and either A, are going to be feeling real aggrieved by it, or B, are going to be looking for revenge quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes. So it was, and after look, and Uragide, as he was grabbing Latte Lot, it's literally, it turns into, grab, but then you get the grab and the spin. And I think
Yep.
that was the defining part.
100% is what it was. Yes.
Where it's like, yeah, okay, Uragide, I get what you're doing. You're hanging on, but then you make that extra move, and then I think that accentuates anything that you're staring at, and then you get the PK call, which you should have gotten.
Yep.
All right. Calling fouls versus not calling fouls and the tenor of a match. I think that, we mentioned consistency. If you're going to call everything, call everything. If you're going to call nothing, call nothing. Just make sure that you're consistent in one way or the other, because the last thing you need is to overcorrect and then have one half to the other, or even possessions where you're wondering about, well, why didn't you call this and you call this, and then you get all the consistency. I think is something that we have to continue to come back to a lot when it comes to administration of matches in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, looking at this game particularly, it was probably more fouls than you would like to have called. But I don't think any of it. I don't think it got out of hand in terms of like, oh wow, they're calling too much. That's just my personal thing.
Yeah.
Because now, granted, I was watching on a phone at a wedding, so my vision was a little skewed in multiple ways. It wasn't like the fouls were ticky-tack too much.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed more like players were a little not careful, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to play with care, a level of care. That's why our first level of foul is a careless foul. And it seemed like they were just a little like not taking care. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
And
absolutely. Yeah. And so, yeah, and you have all of that, and then mass confrontation. Is it up to an official? Is it up to a man in the middle to just kind of sit there and go, I'm going to let them say their piece and not worry about it? Or when a law of the game is a law of the game, does it have to be administered by the letter of the law? And was an opportunity missed here in mass confrontation where, if I'm not mistaken, right now it's just the dude with the captain's armband and an appointee. If the captain is like a keeper or something, then it can be either the captain wearing the armband or an appointee. It can be a designate if it's a separate position. But then you have mass confrontation, and we're still seeing this, and not just on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz, but you're seeing a lot of mass confrontation and no blackjack dealers. It's like, look, you say something and you ain't it. It's like bang, 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 bang. We're still not getting that when it comes to laws of the game.
Right. I think that is a very fair critique of what we're seeing with MLS this season. Look, Miami has 17 captains on their roster. We've talked about that. They need to do better of upholding the captain only type of thing. I will even expand it to the captain plus, maybe the player who either got fouled or did the fouling. Because again, individual players are going to want to plead their case. We have to allow them some sort of room to say, no, I didn't do that, even though they're completely wrong most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you have, the left back all of a sudden is rushing from, halfway across the field to start pleading their case. And you have the defensive midfielder is now up there because, we got to have an enforcer because, there are people there. That needs to be absolutely stopped. And I do think this comes down to maybe not even the referees on the field, because I'm sorry, the problem is once they start coming at you, what are you going to do? You can give yellow cards all you want, but that isn't going to stop them from doing it.
Well, I mean, I would, what I'm envisioning is the first center ref in the league to sit there and go, full stop sign, and either point to, okay, I'm talking to you, and then everybody else.
That's the thing. There is that. I think the referees need to be a little bit more, again, only allow the captain. Problem is, if I do this, that's fine. Is Sergi Busquets going to pay attention to that?
Well, no. And the only way that
is Luis Suarez paying attention to that?
And I think that in those situations, you have to have a center back who is confident enough in themselves and administering the laws of the game to go ahead and go bang.
I agree. But my solution also is, I think Disco and the league needs to just dole out fines.
Yeah.
We need to, because again, I think the problem is if a referee starts giving out yellow cards for that kind of stuff, that makes them even more mad. And then you're going to have a situation where I know, John, I know, but John, you're looking at it from a normal point of view. I'm talking about soccer players who are criminally insane. Right? These people are not right in the head. As a former athlete myself, I will say these people are not right in the head, especially in the moment. So you're going to give a yellow card for a mass confrontation over a silly little foul because, and then said player is going to, I don't know, kick a ball away, get another yellow card. And now you've given a double yellow card, red card for procedural things. And that is something that is hard. I'm not saying we don't want it. That's not palatable. That doesn't go down the same way that, that was a bad foul. That's 2 bad fouls. You got a double yellow card for that. He's out,
Then don't be stupid.
John, look at the world today and tell me if that advice works.
I know.
They're going to be stupid. They are absolute idiots when they get on the field for those 90 minutes because they are all juiced up, ready to play soccer. And we have allowed for too long the petulant, spoiled child behavior to the point where these players, except for Luis Suarez, who invented it, but these players, a lot of them grew up with this as the norm in soccer. And it doesn't just get removed because we start giving a yellow card or two.
It doesn't get purged from your system, I know.
No. So I think I agree with you. The center referee needs to do better to. Nope, I'm talking to the captain. Captain. I'm only talking to him. But any player who then tries to do anything else, I think Disco needs to say, here's your fine.
Yeah.
Here's your fine. $2,000 the first time, and it goes up, it doubles each time you get fined for it. Because I think that may not affect players like Suarez and Busquets because they $2,000.
No, but the players who draft off of them.
Correct. But all the players under look, Miggy, Latte Lot, Moranchuk, $2,000 for them is not the biggest deal, but it is a lot for a guy like Jay Fortune or even a guy like Saba who's not on that DP level anymore. And so in this league where we do have a lot of players who are still financially, I'm not going to say they're bad or not well off, but they're not rolling in it like some of the other players. This wouldn't work in the Premier League. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
That needs to be addressed, I think, from a league disciplinary committee thing. Just like mass confrontations get, when you have an actual mass confrontation with fisticuffs, right?
Mm.
VAR can look at stuff all they want, but we always look at it again because we need to make sure that we didn't miss anything. I think they need to be a little bit more proactive in that. Maybe it's reactive, but proactive in handling these before too late because we're 6-7 games into the season.
7,
yeah. We've got to not.
Yeah, you're 20% into your schedule already. All right, so play at the end. I want to get into letting a play go, having VAR look at it versus the absolute call, and why VAR didn't look, especially looking at the reaction after the fact, where you got Jamal heading route one, he's got it, and then slightest of slights, and then making a meal out of it. I want to say it was Shaq Moore. I think it was Shaq that was there, and then Shaq goes down, and instead of letting the play finish, and odds are the ball was going to go into the back of the net because you're basically one versus keeper at that point.
Mhm.
The notion of letting a play breathe instead of quick whistling, and you end up with a foul where Atlanta's denied with a late opportunity to get 2 more points and get the second goal in the match, and then have VAR sit there and go, okay, it was a clear and obvious error that you didn't stop the play. It's one of those where I think the play was stopped prematurely, and in this case, it was a last rush for Atlanta United. And then, as Abe mentioned, he was looking at the player who went down, who was fouled in this case, and the player got up, and the other center back, I think it was Orgide and Shaq Moore again, where one's applauding the other after the getting helped up and everything's fine, and oh, hey, look, I'm cured. One of those moments.
Okay, so we want to talk about?
Yeah, you can take all of that last play in microcosm, and that's what we'll do to wrap up.
First off, I think, as we know, major fouls or events in the attacking phase of play have oftentimes been allowed to go because it allows us to, with VAR, we can go back and correct things. Now, a foul in itself cannot be corrected via VAR. You're not going to go back and give a foul for that. But we also don't want to call a foul prematurely and then an advantage appear and a player or a team could go on and score. But there are certain instances where if you allow advantage, then you cannot come back and give maybe a red card for dog-so or a yellow card for stopping a promising attack if you've given that advantage and the advantage played out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So the problem with that is that weighing of what's more important here, a card or the foul and the advantage. And for as late in a game, a card doesn't really, it does something like later on, but in this game, like as a referee, I'm not thinking about next week. I don't care. In this game, the advantage and trying to hopefully play on makes more sense, if that's answering your question the way it should.
Yeah. Is the SO okay? Is allergies taking full advantage?
Well, bless his little heart. We had a wedding this weekend.
Yes,
obviously, and he was laid up all day yesterday, and is probably similarly hurting today.
Oh, all right. All right. So we've got the friendly coming up with USWNT. It's at PayPal Park. It's going to be sold out. You'll have 18,000 people there. Secondary ticket market is huge. What else is going on with the Soccer for USPOD?
We'll have a wrap up of this window after that because, we want to take stock of hopefully 2 wins against Brazil and a gold medal rematch. So we'll have that hopefully Wednesday night, and then by Friday get it to you. So yeah, I don't know if you also happen to see there's a blog up on soccerdownhere.net, my opinion about I don't do news, John. That's not my job. Specifically chose to not do news in my career.
It's my job.
Yeah, as someone who used to be a stringer.
Okay.
I'm going to try to tackle these pro-rel things because I think it's a conversation that we need to have, but is trying to do it from an MLS perspective. And the first one was acknowledging that there needs to be some sort of response, maybe not reaction, response by the league, by MLS to say, oh, USL did a thing. How do we maintain our status?
Yeah. Not
how do we reclaim it or how do we react to what USL did? But there are things that MLS does need to evaluate and go, there are ways that we can bring in either A, more money, or B, more eyeballs or both to the league. And so that is up on soccerdownhere.net. So go check that out too.
There you go. All right. So we're getting ready for Atlanta United 2 and Messi and Friends 2 Electric Boogaloo coming up top of the hour in 5 minutes. You can go over and listen to the pregame show. Here's your promo. where you can go and hang out and see one of the wildest or listen to one of the wildest events that we've had here in the last 24 hours.
Man.
So soccerdownhere.mixler.com, soccerdownhere.net. Go to the listen tab. You'll see a flashing light. That'll be the live channel that's up. You can go to the Mixler app, follow Soccer Down Here, follow SDH2. That is all that's going on right now. Once again, Maddie and Jason in an empty Mercedes-Benz Stadium, save for the construction workers off to their right and the play going on below them and anybody else who's there in regular work who's going to watch this the rest of this matchup. Picking up at 24:09 in 5 minutes. So you have a chance to go over. You can also go to MLSNextPro.com, watch the match there. Maybe you could sync it up. Sync up your experience with Maddie and Jason as they're calling Electric Boogaloo this morning after a 4-hour and 19-minute rain delay without an Andy Griffith rerun yesterday on SDH2. So I mean on the SDH network. So he's Bart. I'm John. We're out the door because we're going to go try and figure out what in the wide world of sports is going on with the activity at the Bends. Later today, weather permitting, I'm at Kahala Creek for Fort Payne and Kahala Creek, 6 o'clock kick. It's just the one match. We're in a flood watch. Keep an eye on your notifications and figure out if the road trip's going to happen or not. So play it safe, everybody. Mucha plot, y'all. It's the end of the show. That means we get to do this in a little less than 23 hours. We're almost 22. See you tomorrow.